All right, let's go keep going with our video lecture on chapter 4, part 7, dealing with the Romans. And we're going to now focus on Roman religion. So we see in this cartoon drawing the different Roman gods and goddesses. And you'll notice that there's a lot of similarities between these gods and goddesses with the Greek ones, which again indicates to us the great influence that the Greeks had amongst the Romans. So even though they changed the names around, they were pretty much the very similar to the Greek ones. So, for example, Pluto, that would be Hades. Cupid would be Eros. Mercury would be Hermes. Neptune is Poseidon. Jupiter is Zeus, and so on and so forth. All right, so let's have about the state religion. So the Romans had their own religion, the Roman religion, and it was a religion practiced by the government. And the Romans were polytheistic, and as their territory expanded and they came into contact with different people, different religions, and different cultures, they would combine those religious beliefs and practices and create something new. And this is what it calls syncretism, right? And the main people that they borrowed from were the Greeks, right? Even though the Romans conquered the Greeks and enslaved the Greeks, they absolutely loved Greek culture and philosophy and literature and science and math and everything else. And in fact, it would be a honor for a rich Roman family to be able to afford to hire a Greek as a tutor or as a teacher for their kids. So Greek slaves, as who they wouldn't be used for labor, but they would be used for education or for entertainment to tell stories and poems, were used as very popular amongst the elite Romans. So, anyways, Rome was the religion was under state authority. So the government would hold these ceremonies, and the head priest, uh, the head priest was titled Pontifex Maximus, right? Maximus being the head, and Pontifex meaning the priest, and the or the highest priest. And basically, they would offer sacrifices and honor and worship the gods on behalf of the Roman people, on behalf of the Republic or the Empire. And everyone who was within Rome, within or under the control of the Romans, they had to follow this religion, right? And the main way that they followed this religion was by paying a tax to the church, to the religion. So if you were Jewish, or if you were Zoroastrian, or if you still follow the Egyptian gods, right? Or if you're Greek, you were allowed to practice your faith and believe in whatever you wanted to believe in, but you still had to pay taxes and show respect to the state religion of the Romans. And another big aspect of the state religion is the idea that the emperors are divine, right? That the emperors, upon death, will become gods. And we can kind of guess that this idea, right, it was something that the Romans borrowed. Because if you recall, the pharaohs of Egypt also were that way, right? The pharaohs were the god kings. And the Roman emperor, the Roman Caesar, was very similar in that idea. So you had to pray or show respect to the emperor as if he was a god. And here's the Pantheon, right? The famous temple of the Romans, right? So this big dome that you see in the back, right? That's a very famous architectural style of the Romans, right? This huge, huge, huge building, right, is made out of concrete. Romans, used concrete for the first time, right? But in the front, we see the elements of Greek architecture, right? These columns, this triangle thing, right? Those are all Greek styles. And if we look at the buildings in Washington, we see a lot of those similarities. So we see that triangle in the front, we see those columns, we see the dome as well. So there was the state religion, the official religion of the Romans, and you had to follow or not necessarily follow, but at least pay respect to it, even though you can practice your own. But there was also the personal religion, right? Romans of all sorts believed in different gods, and they would practice their faith at home. So they would build altars, which is we see here, right? They'll light candles, they'll sacrifice animals, they'll leave offerings for the local gods that they believed in, right? They didn't necessarily have to be the Roman gods. And different cults were formed, and some of these cults focused a lot on the afterlife and about what happens to the soul when you die. And they attract a lot of people because when your life on earth, is miserable and it sucks because you're a peasant or because you're a slave, then, the promise of something better in the afterlife is attractive. And these are called the mystery cults, right? And some of these were like Greek and Egyptian gods that people would pray to or focus on. So, what you did at home privately, the Roman government didn't really care. But as long as you paid your taxes and as long as you showed the respect to the emperor and the respect to the Roman state religion, you would be you'd be fine with the Romans. And there's a reason for this, right? And this is we can say that this is toleration. They tolerated other people's religion, kind of like what the Persians had done, sort of. Because the Persians, they tolerated people's religion as long as they paid taxes. But the Persians never really enforced or forced anyone to believe in Zoroastrianism or to practice it. So this is kind of like a slight variation. So it's somewhat tolerant, but it's for the same reasons. Because the Roman Empire, just like the Persian Empire before it, or the Hellenistic Empire, was so huge and had so many different people, so many ethnicities and backgrounds and cultures and religious beliefs that it was easier to get people to agree with you by offering them the opportunity to keep their culture and their identity and not trying to force them too much to change. So it's kind of for the same idea, right? There's the same reason behind this kind of toleration that the Romans had. But this offering or this deal, this toleration that the Romans had, it had limits. And certain groups pushed those limits, and one of them would have been the Jewish people. Right, just to kind of give you a preview, this is a relief statue, right, carved into a wall of Roman soldiers walking away with loot, with stuff that they stole from Jewish homes and Jewish temples when a Jewish rebellion was was put down by the Roman military. Right, he received the menorah, right, the symbol of the Jewish faith, being carried away. So a lot of Jewish people, most Jewish people actually, lived in Judea, right? Judea being what we now will call the country of Israel. And Judea was a province, right? So it was a territory controlled by the Romans. The Romans set up a governor to rule over it. And the capital city was Jerusalem. And the Jewish people have been living there since the time of the Persians. And the Jewish people would clash quite frequently with the Romans because the Jews wanted their independence, like many other people did. And they really did not like the fact that they were forced to pay a religious tax to honor the emperor or to any of the other Roman gods. And the reason is because, of course, Judaism is a monotheistic religion. They believe in a single, all-powerful God, and to honor or to pay respects or to pay tribute to any other gods is a violation of their personal faith. So they would rebel. Oftentimes they would rebel. And each time the Romans crushed the rebellions over and over and over. So the Romans really became intolerant of the Jews because the Jews refused to kind of like pay along or pay the tribute. And as a punishment, they destroyed the Jewish temple, right? The second temple. The first one was destroyed by the Assyrians. It was rebuilt and then the Romans destroyed it. And they were once again forcibly relocated throughout the empire. So we have another diaspora. Remember that word, the diaspora, right, where the Jewish people are forced to flee their homeland. And now the Romans tell the Jews you have to go. You can't stay in Judea anymore. And they're forced to go to other parts of Europe. Right, and again, here we see this drawing, this painting of the temple being, burned. Right, we see catapults being launched, launching rocks to destroy the temple. All the treasures, all the religious icons, religious images being carried away by the Romans. So the Romans, again, they're somewhat tolerant, but they would definitely crush anyone who tried to rebel against them. And their disbursement, their forced, deployment of Jewish people around the empire was kind of like uh, the final punishment of the Jewish people. Once again, they're forced out of their homeland, um, and they don't return until the 1950s, until the creation of Israel. All right, so that's it for our part 7. See you next time.